How to fix a deck that feels too slow. Guys, welcome to the video. My name is Jack Talks MTG and I make Commander content for noobs just like you. I was inspired to make this video because, well, one, I've had this problem with my own deck before, and I've also seen this with other people in my playgroup. Recently, my own sister came to me and was like, Jack, this new Teamer deck that I've bought, it's really fun. I love it. I'm getting all these cool dragons out, but it just seems so much slower than my older decks. And I'm not really sure if it's because I'm not used to high mana value cards, or, you know, is it just me, or is this deck actually quite a bit slower? So I wanted to make a video, talk about quickly sort of how to identify whether this is an issue that maybe your deck might be running into, and then also some ways to tackle this problem. So if that sounds good to you, grab your cuppa and let's get started. Okay, so how do we identify a problem with a deck? And this is just in general, right? It doesn't have to be about whether a deck feels slow, just in general. There's two main ways to identify if a deck is having a problem or not. Number one, play the damn deck. If you don't play with a deck, then you're not gonna know. I've reckoned that there's people out there that try to upgrade. Let's say you buy a precon and they're already like buying cards to upgrade it. I think this is fine if you've played the game for a really long time, and you know, you can just look at a deck list and you just know, nah, this, from a glance, I know this deck has got some flaws that I want to try and fix out the box. But for me, even though I know, like, I have some cards now that are set aside for my Jeskai deck that I know I want to put in. But the reality is, I haven't played with the deck enough for me to know I definitely want to take this card out. This card always feels bad when I draw it, right? I think, especially if you're new, don't be in a rush to start upgrading your deck straight away. Just get some reps in with the deck. Learn the deck. Become familiar with it. You know, you want to play it so much that you know the deck sort of like off the back of your hand. You could play it with your eyes closed, because then you're going to be in so much of a more educated position to be able to start making edits. Now, another great way is to goldfish, and the reason why goldfishing in a way is actually a lot better than getting the games in with the deck is because playing games takes a long time. On your average Commander night, let's be honest, you're probably playing 2 to 3 games. Now, even if you are playing with the exact same deck every game, that's only 2 to 3 games. And how much are you going to really learn after 2 to 3 games? Now, let's say you're playing once a week. That means that on average in a month, let's just be realistic, let's say 8 to 10 games, right? It's not that much. Even after those 10 games, there's going to be so many factors that could come in that could affect how a deck feels and stuff like that. So it's not really a lot, right? Whereas if you goldfish, you can essentially just play like 100 games, you know? Yes, you don't have other players to kind of gauge and compare it to, but you know, you can look for patterns and stuff like that. So if you're like, God, it's taking me so long to get my commander out, or it's getting me so long to feel like I'm doing stuff, it's taking me 4 to 5 turns, then maybe that's a sign that that's an issue that you're going to have to try and resolve. And if you don't know what goldfishing is, that's essentially just playing by yourself, right? You just imagine you're playing with other people, you play your hands, you draw your 7 cards, you play your land, tap, do that on turn 1, okay, untap, draw, you get the picture, right? So yeah, and the faster you can do this, the more practice you do it, the more games you can get in, and the more, yeah, easy it is going to be to identify some patterns of error that may need to be fixed. So what does too slow actually mean? So by my definition, if a deck feels too slow, it means that your deck is taking too long to come online and start doing things. This is a lot easier to see when you're playing against other people, because then you can see, like, my opponents are doing stuff way before I am, and by the time I start actually doing stuff, it's too late. My opponents have already built a board that's too big for me to deal with, so even once I start playing all my high cost stuff, it doesn't really matter. That's a good sign that a deck feels too slow. You can go off your like games that you're winning as well. I mean, if you're winning all your games, your deck's probably not too slow. It's probably doing just fine because it's doing the job anyway. But it doesn't always have to be about results. It can be about feel, especially with like deck editing. For me, like, commanders are a bit more emotional than like metagaming and doing like the optimum thing, especially if your deck is like an element of self-expression, right? If it doesn't feel right to you, it doesn't matter what other people are saying. If you're playing the deck and you're like, you know what, even though I don't have to maybe do anything until turn 3, 4, whatever, I like to have a card to play on turn 1 or turn 2. Even if I'm just playing a rock or something to ramp myself, I want something to do. I don't just want to sit there, play a land, and then my turn. And that's fair enough, right? So if that's you and those thoughts are coming in your head, then you do something about it. It's your deck. Do not be scared. Oh, I'm going to ruin the deck. I'm going to ruin the deck. One, all deck edits are reversible, okay? You've got the deck recipe whenever you need it. You can just put it back to normal. It's absolutely fine. Don't be scared to make deck edits. Think of it like exploring, you know? And you might explore and hit a danger or something, and you're like, ah, crap, we made an error. Let's bring it back. Or you might explore some treasure, and you're like, wow, this has been great. This has been a really weird metaphor for deck building, but yeah, I hope you guys get what I'm saying. Okay, so how do we fix a deck that is too slow? We've got 2 ways, in my opinion. Number 1, you can take some higher cost stuff out, put some lower cost stuff in. That's immediately going to speed the deck up. You're going to have less cards in your hand where you can't play them until later. Number 2 is put more ramp in your deck. More ramp is going to mean that you can play these higher cost cards sooner. Which is always going to be nice and probably a little bit more effective as well, because you do want to be careful, right? Because you don't want to take a deck that's kind of supposed to be about playing high cost stuff and then just take all the high cost stuff out and put the low cost stuff in. You kind of just ruin what the deck was about in the first place. So if your deck is about high mana value stuff, that's great, but it should still not feel too slow. You should still be able to, you know, impact the board once your big stuff starts coming down. You accept, yes, it's going to take me a little bit longer and I'm not going to be pressuring the board from the beginning, but when my stuff does come down, I'm making enough of a difference that it's okay. And if you don't feel like that, it's time to speed up the deck. So let's talk about ramp options, because we've got loads, guys. So we've got mana dorks, which are creatures that tap for mana. Typically, these can only really be found in green. However, red has also got its very first mana dork, so I don't want to leave that out. But yeah, typically mana dorks are usually in green. These are cards like your Elvish Mystic, your Llanowar Elves, your Birds of Paradise, all that stuff, right? Next, you got mana rocks. So these are artifacts that tap for mana. You got your signets, you got your talismans, you got your soul rings, you got your mind stones. You've seen them all in many precons, but there's some others that are a little bit more niche that maybe work better in some different kind of decks. From the top of my head, I'm thinking like, is it the Relic of Sauron that's in the Host of Mordor deck that's in mine? It's a 4-cost mana rock. It's going to be really good in high cost decks like that deck. Treasures are a fantastic way to generate ramp. My pirate deck makes loads of treasures, right? So it's never ever really got a problem with ramp in that deck. So that's a really nice fun way, and there's plenty of good commander cards that make treasure tokens. We've got land ramp. So these are cards that put additional lands into play. But so these spells are going to be your Rampant Growth, your Kodama's Reach, that sort of stuff, you know, your Migration Path, grabbing lands, putting them straight onto the battlefield. Or even cards that allow you to have additional land drops is also a good way. Again, a lot of these cards are going to be in green, cards like Explorer and stuff like that. Next, you've got like rituals. They don't all have the name ritual, but it's kind of what people refer to as spells that generate mana by themselves. So essentially, like you play an instant or sorcery, and then you get to add some mana into your mana pool. An example of this will be like Dark Ritual, which is I think where they get the name rituals. You play this 1 mana black spell, and you add 3 black mana to your pool. Straight away, you're ramping. It's all a good time. Some other cards that are great for this is like Mana Geyser. This card came in my Jeskai precon. It's really, really nice for a nice explosion of mana later in the game. And then you've also got stuff like Jeska's Will and, you know, yeah, stuff like that. Lastly, we're going to talk about is utility lands. So these are lands that generate multiple mana. Okay, so we're talking Temple of the False God, or if you got some big bucks, we're talking Ancient Tomb. Yeah, these like utility lands, they aren't as common, but they are out there. And if you think you can make them work in your deck, then they are well worth the go. Okay, so let's talk about decks in my own collection. We're talking about my Sauron deck, because this was typical. As soon as I started playing some games with this, I knew straight away, this deck is slow as balls. I had a 8 mana commander, and it was taking me nigh on, 7 turns to get to that commander. It was just, it felt really sluggish. Yes, Sauron felt really impactful when it hit the board, but by then, as I said, it was just a bit too late. My opponents were already popping off and doing stuff, and I just felt so behind. You know, every game at the start, I just felt like I'm just doing nothing. That was not fun for me. So if I was to make some edits to this deck, I would straight up add some nice old ramp sources to get the deck going a little bit more. Now, because this deck is a lot higher cost, I'm going to be leaving out the lower cost ramp stuff and going for more higher cost stuff. So we're thinking, is it the Golden Throne? Yes, Golden Throne, the Warhammer artifact. It's a Warhammer card, and I love Warhammer, so it's definitely going in. Anyway, this allows me to sack creatures to add 3 mana to my pool. So, you know, I can play this on turn 4, and by turn 5, I can sack a creature, add 3 mana, and then also play my land drop. I've got enough for Sauron. I'm ready to go on turn 5 instead of turn 8. So much better. Completely transforms the deck. And then I'm also sacking that creature, and then I can just reanimate it straight away with Sauron. So it just works perfectly. Some other cards I would like in here is like Lotus Bloom. Now, this is a lower cost card, but it gives me a big burst of mana, especially if I get it early on. If I drop that on turn 2, it's just there getting counters. It's only got 1-time use, but that's all I need it for, because I just want to slap that commander down as early as I can to pay for that big old cost. Another 4 mana artifact would be Lava Brink Floodgates. Yes, Lava Brink Floodgates. Again, this is a really nice 4 mana spell. It's giving me 2 mana, so not as much as the Throne. However, it's giving me mana, but it can also be a board wipe. It encourages like political conversations, and the board wipes are always going to be good in higher cost cards, because typically your opponent will have more creatures than you do, especially early on, so you're going to get way more benefit out of it. So they kind of have to choose, do they want to lose their board or give you yours? It can be quite nice. Now, another important thing to note is because Sauron is 8 mana, it is not clashing with these kind of 4 mana artifacts. If my commander was something like Saruman, then I'm screwed, right? I can't, well, not screwed, but I can't run these cards, right? Because I want to be playing Saruman on turn 4, or when I'm hit my 4th mana. That way, I'm not going to be playing my Throne, right? It's going to be just stuck in my hand, and I'm not going to be playing it till turn 5, say. So it just doesn't go well. Same with the Floodgates. I'm not really getting as much benefit out of the Petal. Is it the Petal? Yeah, the Lotus Bloom, sorry. So yeah, it's not as good. So if I was using Saruman as my commander, I'm more going to the edge of like, get some more 2 mana ramp spells in there, get some talismans in there, get some treasure creation. It's going to be a little bit better. I've had this problem as well with my animated army precon, because I switched the commander to Wildseer. What does this mean? I now have a 5-cost commander instead of a 3-cost commander. This changes everything, guys. And because I took out a lot of artifacts, because I didn't want sort of to go into that bellow strategy, I wanted more enchantment base. It meant I was taking out, you know, my 4-cost rocks, because they didn't really go that too well with the deck, and I had to replace them and get a little bit more ramp in general, just because, you know, I didn't have bellow there as a 3-cost commander. My average mana value kind of went up a little bit, and I want to get Wildseer more consistently out sooner. So this meant that I started to add some 3-cost creatures, some mana dorks. I added Savala. Oh, well, Savala I think was the 3-cost creature, and then I added, I think, Sanctum Weaver. Yes, Sanctum Weaver, that's the right card. So these cards were really, really great, because not only are they mana dorks and they give me mana, they also work well and synergize with the deck. Savala cares about high power creatures. Well, that's already a theme in my Wildseer deck, so that was perfect. And then we had Sanctum Weaver, cares about enchantments. This is an enchantment based deck, so it was perfect. So that's another thing to think about. If you're adding ramp, can you also add ramp that also synergizes with your deck's plan? If you can, you're probably going to get more bang for your buck. Like Savala can tap and add 6, 7, 8 mana to my pool sometimes. It's fantastic. So much better than like a Llanowar Elves that's just going to tap for 1, right? So think about what your deck's trying to do, and can you maximize on that mana ramp? Now, what if I wanted to use Bellow? Well, my strategy changes, right? Savala would clash with Bellow because they're both 3 costs. We don't want that. Sanctum Weaver's not really going to work either, because I probably have less enchantments in my deck. I can probably get more out of a 2 mana. it wouldn't be as consistent, right? So if I was using Bellow, if I'm adding Ramp and I want to speed up the deck even more, I want Bellow out even sooner than turn 3. I want him out on turn 2. So really, my only options are to add 1 mana Ramp sources. So we are talking about our Birds of Paradise. We're talking about our Llanowar Elves. Suddenly, these cards not as good as in Wildseer are really, really nice in Bellow, right? Because now I can turn 1, Llanowar Elves, turn 2, play my second land, and then tap the Llanowar Elves for my 3rd mana. Boom. I have Bellow out on turn 2. And then by turn 3, I'm playing my 4 mana artifacts, which is going to trigger Bellow. And then the pressure is getting 1 turn earlier. So if you want to speed up with your decks, guys, go with one of these options. Whether you just think, no, you know what, I just want to add some lower cost stuff. I've done that myself before. Okay, so that's not necessarily the worst option. But if you like the fact that you've got all these high cost stuff, you just want to get them out a bit sooner, slap some ramp in, but not just any old ramp sources. Think about what ramp sources you're adding. One of the main factors here is going to be your commander. So look at your commander's cost and think, what turn realistically do I want to get this out by? Just minus it by 1 or 2 or whatever, and see if you can add some spells that's going to allow you to get that commander out a little bit sooner. Now, guys, if you enjoy these deck building tip videos, but you want to go a little bit deeper, maybe you want to build your very first commander deck from scratch, then go check out this video here. It's going to have all the information you need.